Hi, everybody. So, I'm getting ready to start Thanksgiving dinner. We're having a non-traditional Thanksgiving dinner this year. I'm making my grandmother's oven roasted stew. Oh, and then I decided at the last minute I might as well show you. It's so simple and it's so easy. So please come along and bear with me on this impromptu video where we learn to make my grandma's other oven roasted stew. First step, quarter cup of butter into the roasting. I got one of those big black roasting pans, enamel roasting pans. Put a quarter cup of butter in there. Turn the oven on 325. Don't put the lid on. Not at this moment. You just turn on the oven, put it in the oven, and let it all melt and get all nice and roasty while we slice up our roast. We'll be back. First step, we just take a big piece of roast, any kind you want, beef, lamb, rabbit works well. Rabbit works real well. It can even be venison roast, bear roast. It does not matter. But it needs to be the cut of meat that works for a roast. This is oven roast stew, not oven roasted. So the stew is made out of the roast meat. So the first thing we do is slice it, and then we're going to dice it, and then we're going to dump it into the stew pot in the oven, the roasting pan in the oven, and fry it up. We'll be back. Alright, this is the secret to my grandmother's oven roasted stew. 2 cups of, it's a batter that we're going to put on our meat before we put it in with the butter. 2 cups of flour, half a cup of breadcrumbs or cornmeal. I make my own breadcrumbs out of my own bread. 1.5 teaspoons of pepper. 1 teaspoon of salt. I have Applewood sea salt here. 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. 1 tablespoon of onion powder. And then we just mix it all up. And then we're going to add our meat, and I'll be right back. Now that I've sliced up all my meat and got it into the pan here, I'm just going to stir all this up and get it coated really well. I have my butter in the oven melting and getting all toasty. We're just going to get this really well coated and ready for the oven. We'll be back. Now that it's coated real well, we're going to check our butter in the oven and make sure it's all nice and melted and bubbly and all ready to accept this beautiful meat. Yep, butter's all roasty toasty, ready for the meat. Alright, now we just take the meat, put it in with the butter. That's it. We close the oven and let the meat brown in the butter for about 20 minutes till the meat's, partially cooked and good and brown. We'll be back when all the meat is in there. Now all the meat is in the roasting pan. I'm just going to mix it up a little bit and then let it start, like I said, browning for a good 20 minutes to half an hour. Now, what are we going to do with all this leftover flour and spices? Don't get rid of them. We're going to use part of it in the next step to help with the thickening of the stew. And we're going to use the rest of it in a later step to help with the rest of the thickening of the stew. We'll be back to check on this in 10 or 15 minutes to see how it's going. It's been 5 minutes and our meat has begun to start its roasting process. So we're going to put our lid on the roaster. And like I said, we're going to let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes and come back and check on it. We'll be back. It's been 15 minutes. Oh yeah. Looking great and smelling wonderful. Now, all that thick, mushy coating on top of it is what's going to help thicken your stew. This is stew. This is not soup. I think it needs about 5 more minutes because we want our meat about half cooked. And we still want the flour mixture to be goopy and wet, not starting to fry up. So, I'm going to put the lid back on it and leave it for about 5 to 10 more minutes. We'll be back. Next step, I got a big bowl of frozen vegetables here. Got green beans, leeks, cauliflower, all kinds of different colored sweet peppers way on the bottom down here. I have broccoli, more cauliflower, carrots, and yellow squash. I'm just going to take this bowl of frozen vegetables and dump it on top of our meat mush. Remember, the meat's not all the way cooked. And we don't want it to be. So then we're going to mix it all up. And now that it's perfectly mixed, we're going to take a couple of tablespoons of our flour and herb mix left over from mixing up our meat. And we're just going to put it right on top. Then we're going to put our lid on it because the water from the vegetables will start to add some of the liquid to the stew. And it'll mix with the flour that we just added and the partially cooked flour that's on top of the meat and help start the stew process. Now we're going to put the lid on it, close the oven, and let this bake on 3, turn it up to 350, for about 2.5 hours. Remember, this is slow oven roasting. We'll be back. Let's check on all these wonderfully roasting meat and veggies. Oh, they all look so good. Now we're just going to stir it. That's right, stir it. And now that it's all stirred and mixed up, we are going to add our veggie stock and our beef broth. We have our beef broth, which is actually, for me, home canned bone beef broth. And then our veggie stocks. Or veggies, anything that you want to get from the stores. All of my stuff is home canned. And then my grandma's secret ingredient. Now I have to buy store-bought because I can't make my own home cream corn. Not good at it. Tried it. Made a mess. I use cream corn so rarely, I just buy it. So a can of cream corn and then rutabagas. I only use rutabagas in this recipe only. So I don't buy them and I don't can them myself. I don't buy them at the farmer's market and I don't can them myself. So I just buy canned rutabagas. And we're going to put all these in our roasting pan. Just like that. One thing at a time. Into our roasting pan. Like this. Now that everything is in there and the cream corn, we want to get it all good and mixed together. And all of that flour mixture that was on the meat and vegetables will soak into the veggie stock. And as it all cooks together in the oven for another 1.5 to 2 hours, that's right, people, 5 to 6 hour oven stew. It will thicken and it will become perfect. We will be back. I baked it in the oven for another 2 hours and it is done. Sometimes you have to add more of the flour mixture, about half an hour, 45 minutes before it's done. You just sprinkle a little bit more of that flour mixture right on top. But this thickened up nicely, and we don't need to. So, look at that. It's so thick and beautiful. And you can do this with fresh veggies, and it'll take less time. Or you can do it with frozen veggies like I did, and it only adds about an hour. This was in the hour oven, a total of 5 hours. Now we're going to turn off the oven. Boom, oven off. And we're going to let it cool. And then we're going to dish it up. And we'll be back to show you big bowl of this and some tasty, warm, fresh bread. We'll be back. And there we have it. Grandma's oven roast stew. Oh, so nice and thick. I wish I had smell-o-vision. It smells so wonderful. And then I make an Italian bread. And I put butter and garlic and basil on top of it and smear it all around. And then I put cheese on top of it and toast it in the oven for a little bit. And let the cheese get all nice and melted. And you can eat it whole by just putting scoopfuls on it. Or you can do what my kids like to do, and that is slice it up into cheesy sticks to dip in your stew. I hope you enjoyed this quick, easy, impromptu video on how to make Grandma's oven roast stew. I hope to see you next time. And remember, everyone, stay positive. Bye.